at our Aging in Phase conference. How are you all doing today? Good? Great. Very happy to have you all here. My name is Young. I'm the Director of Care Services with Kokua Care. I have been in the caregiving field for 10 years professionally and 3 years personally. I have recently become a caregiver to my mom, and because of my prior knowledge, it's been a little bit easier for me, and I'd like to share that knowledge with you folks so it's a little bit easier for you too as well. So today's topic is long-term care options. So what is long-term care? It's such a broad term. It's pretty hard to say, what does that mean? So we're looking at long-term care where it's a combination of medical, nursing, custodial, physical, social, community services, all of these all wrapped into one little term called long-term and care. Basically, long-term care is a progressive type of care. So it moves with you. As your needs change, that's what changes with you. And before I go any further, if you want a copy of the PowerPoint, we'll be passing around some paperwork. All you need to do is put it on your email. We're trying to save the trees. So if you want a copy, feel free to sign up for the PowerPoint. If you're not able to get the paperwork while we're doing it in here, we'll have it available outside as well. Okay, so long-term care is designed to help people with disabilities, chronic care, including dementia. When you look at people with dementia, the saddest part about that is that their physical bodies are usually quite healthy, meaning they're going to need care for a long time, and that's what long-term care would entail. Services are provided in various different settings. So you're looking at home care, care homes, long-term care institutions, nursing homes. You've got hospitals. You've got lots of different settings where long-term care is provided. So, all these seniors, they look so happy, don't they? They don't look like they need care. So 70% of Americans will at some time in their life require some sort of care. Doesn't mean that they're going to need ongoing care. It could just mean respite care where they're recovering from a hospital visit and they need some physical therapy, something like that. But 70% of all Americans will require some sort of care. So that's basically everyone from here that way. You'll all need it. If we're looking at it in a group setting like this. Now this is the interesting one. Who provides the long-term care? How many of you know that your kids are going to take care of you when you need the help? Anybody assuming their kids are going to take care of you when they need some help? Okay, I see a few hands. Do your kids know that? That's the growing trend, is do your children know that they're expected to provide the help? Here in Hawaii, we have that ohana feeling where we're obligated, that's our family, we take care. But a lot of times, you'll find that the people who you're expecting the care from have their own lives, they have their own children, they may even have their own health issues that they need to tend to. So it's not always a simple case of my kids are going to help me when they need it. So 65% of those needing care is friends and family. This is unpaid care services. This is the biggest type of caregiving services that are provided nationwide. It's unpaid care services. So it's usually family members, volunteers, friends. It can be provided by a lot of different people. Most of the care is provided by that sandwich generation. Have you heard the term sandwich generation? Okay, so sandwich generations, if you're not familiar with it, those are the people who have children who require some care and supervision, but they also have parents who require care. So they're sandwiched in the middle of this, and they're just like the caregiver sandwich. So, and it's interesting that only 5% require institutionalization. 5% are in care homes, nursing homes. Usually it's nursing homes that we're looking at with that 5%. And almost 25% of households are involved with helping with care for a spouse or relative. I think that number is jumping up substantially. These numbers are from 2 years ago, but with the boomers growing, I think the numbers should be going up. And unpaid care, like I said earlier, that's the biggest form of care that nationwide is unpaid care. So when we're looking at care, there are different things that we need to consider when it comes down to what kind of care do we need, where are we going to get it from, how do we decide what kind of care there is. So our physical needs would include what is commonly referred to as ADLs. Now that term means activity of daily living. And if you're a caregiver, you'll come across that term quite often. And just so you're familiar with that term, these are activities of daily living. So bathing, dressing, toileting, feeding, transfers, and mobility. Those are the main things that kind of set the standard for what level of care you're going to require, or what level of care that person will require with assistance. These, meals, errands, medication, housekeeping, all these other things, they're still physical needs, but they're not considered ADLs, they're IADLs, which means that they're important, but they're not the main concern. So of course you have emotional needs. Everyone wants to be, acknowledged as a person, treated well. There's times when independence and companionships are really important. I find as a caregiver, my mom requires caregiving services, and her biggest need is to continue to feel independent. Even though she no longer drives, she really values the fact that she can make her own appointments. She values the fact that she can still handle her own banking and finances and things like that. And those things, I really encourage her to do it, because I don't want to do that yet. And if she can do it, by all means. But independence is one of the biggest issues that seniors have when they start getting caregiving services. So it's really important to be conscientious about that. Happiness, self-esteem, dignity, appreciation, all of these things are really important to the well-being of the person being cared for. And when you maintain these healthy needs, when you tend to these needs in a healthy way, you tend to get a senior that's happy, and that's able to accept caregiving services. A lot of times you'll hear people say, you need this, you need help, you need this, you cannot do this anymore. The problem is that when you say it like that, seniors are hearing that they're not okay. They're being judged by things. And that's the hardest part about aging gracefully, is being told that you can't do it. So emotional needs are very important when it comes down to long-term care services. So this is one of my favorite pictures. Can you see what they've got on their lap? It's a humongous snake. I don't know if I'd be that brave. But these are seniors who are enjoying good emotional and comfortable, independent type of activities. So, okay, now we're going to get to our options for care, because once again, long-term care has very different options. So the first one is staying at home. How many of you have lived in your own home for 40 years? 40? 50? 60? 50 years in the same home is a long time, yeah? But I bet you know every place that will creak, every place that you have to kind of sidestep. Being in your own home is really important, and especially for a lot of people here in Hawaii. We stay in our homes a long time. We don't move around. A lot of times it's the family home that's been passed down, or maybe you even grew up in the home. So that's one of our first options for care, is staying at home. So family caregivers and respite care. Anybody familiar with the word respite? Okay, so respite basically means it's a caregiving option for caregivers who need a break. Short-term care services is referred to as respite. And family members, friends, neighbors, those unpaid caregivers that we appreciate so much, they usually are the ones to provide the care to the loved one in the place of residence. And that's when it's manageable. Tutu doesn't drive anymore, so I buy her groceries and I drop them off to her once a week. She's still able to cook her own meals and things like that. That would be like the family caregiver that, just stops by, checks in. When it's more than that, when they need more than just a check-in visit, Tutu cannot bathe now, and I don't feel right bathing Tutu, so let's go hire somebody to come help. That would be when it's supplemented by a home care agency, and that would be kind of a type of respite care as well, giving the caregiver a break. One of the nice things about home care services is that you can supplement the paid services with the unpaid services and work around each other's schedule. So that's one of the nice things about home care. And of course, there are pros and cons to all types of care, and I will be going through all the different care options, and you can kind of weigh the options for you. One of the good things about family caregiving in the home is that the senior will continue to have close contact with their family members, because the family members are still participating in providing the care. It can be very cost effective. If you're only having someone come in once or twice a week for a few hours, you're not spending a lot of money. So it's still affordable to be at home. And once again, like I said, respite and flexibility they go hand in hand, and it helps with stress relief. Some of the cons are family members don't always have the right training. And no matter how well-meaning they are, it could result in injury. And that's why one of the cons is that sometimes they don't have the right training. And I'll give you an example. Tutu falls down, and big Uncle Mike, he wants to lift Tutu up and get her up on her feet. But when he lifts her up so, she's like a bag of rice, she just picks him up. And that twists Tutu's arm or maybe gives her a bruise. And no matter how well-meaning Uncle was, Tutu got injured from it. And that's only because Uncle was not trained. So that's one of the things about family caregiving. What I do recommend, though, is if you are going to have family caregiving and you require that type of care, Kokua Education Center offers family caregiver training to provide services for your family members. So it's really important that you get the proper training if you're going to be a family caregiver and have to do transfers. Caregiver burnout is common. See, have any of you been caregivers to your parents or family members? Yeah? Okay. So I'm sure you can relate to this statement that when you're caring for your loved ones, sometimes it can be frustrating. Sometimes it can be difficult because they don't want to listen to you, because you're their kid. Hey, you're my kid. I put you in diapers. I don't need to listen to you. But that's the truth. Have you found that they were kind of difficult at times? Yeah. So that can attribute to caregiver burnout. Along with burnout, the health can suffer. So I always tell caregivers that I come across, you gotta take care of yourself first. You're not gonna be good to anybody else if you're sick yourself and people are relying on you. So you gotta take the time, relax, take a day off, do what you need to do, but just make sure you take care of yourself and you're healthy. Because if people are relying on you and you're unable to, then what, right? One of the cons is that the senior might need to move in with a caregiver. And I see it as a con, but it's also a blessing in some ways because you get to be around them for that time. But to the person that they're moving in with, it can be, mom's got to move in, we got to clear out the den, we got to do this, whatever. So it can be a con. Question to ask is, does this suit my needs? And is it enough? If we stay at home, can I provide these services and it be enough? Home care. Okay, so we were at home care, we're talking about it, but a little bit more about that. It would include personal care, homemaking, companionship. It's an extension of the family. So basically, when you have a home caregiver come in, they're doing what family members either are unable to do, don't want to do, or maybe they just don't have the time to do it. So they're an extension of the family. Services are customized to the client's needs, meaning if she needs help with cooking, we help with cooking. If she don't need help with cooking, then we don't help with cooking. It's totally dependent on what their needs are. And care may or may not be supervised by a nurse. You'll note that there are different types of agencies. There's home health agencies and home care agencies. Home care is driven by the consumer, which means you're paying for this kind of service out of pocket, but you're getting exactly what you want. that's a give and take on that. And there's different organizations that provide home care services. You can go privately, registry, through an agency. So you have options, different options. These are some of the specific home care services. And now it's just kind of an extension of what we were just talking about. But you don't realize all the things that your home care provider can do until you have an idea of all the things that they can do. So it's good to know that they can do all these different things, and it's as needed. So it's customized completely to the individual. Pros and cons for home care: of course, security and comfort. I get to stay in my own home. That's where I want to live, that's where I want to die, that's where I want to be. Dignity and independence. They still have their ability to be independent, their privacy. Scheduling, it's one-on-one care, and it's very cost-effective depending on the situation. Some of the cons, you will find that there are different organizations that don't have good reputations. And it's not because they don't do a good job, it's because caregivers are few and far between. The good ones are few and far between. So sometimes you have to keep trying with different caregivers. Another con is, like I said, it's out of pocket. Medicare does not reimburse for this. Medicaid does not cover it. So you may need to change to a home health agency if your needs change. And if you have to have 24-hour care, it can get costly. Next level, if you have a senior that just needs supervision or assistance during the day, we can do adult daycare. Anybody have a senior going to adult daycare? How do they like it? They do? Okay, so adult daycare is like school for our kupuna. They go, they have a daily certain schedule. They have breakfast, they have activities, they have lunch, they have socialization. Sometimes they have people come in and do projects with them. It's a great way to have them busy throughout the day, especially for that sandwich generation when they need someone there with mom, but mom can't be home alone. This is a good option. It's usually Monday through Friday. Like I said, it does include these various activities. And usually the schedules are like from 7 to like 6 p.m., 7 to 5 p.m. So it works around a working schedule. With adult daycares, it is cost effective to have them out there. They're getting their meals and they're having activity, they're having interaction, companionship, social interaction, and it suits working caregivers' needs. So it's really helpful. I gotta go to work, mom needs somebody with her, she needs some socialization, so maybe let's send her to daycare once or twice a week. She gets her activities done, I get a day where I can just drop her off and come back, I don't need to worry about it. Cons, once again, you still have to drop her off and bring her back, so coordination of transportation. There is no weekend coverage, and lack of individualized attention. So usually with the daycare, it's not one-on-one, so it's usually maybe 1-8 to 6 to 10 attendees. And so they kind of watch the whole group. So it's not one-on-one. And then, again, does this suit my needs? Is this something that I need or that I should provide for the person I'm providing care for? Home health care. Okay, we started with home care, which is this level. We're going up a level, home health care. And up here at the top of the level, we're going to be seeing nursing care. So we're going to go through these levels and get to there. So the first level is home care, second level, home health care. Once again, home care is consumer driven. So it's not, the doctor isn't telling you you need this, the doctor's not providing the care. Home health care is more medical driven. So you'll see nurses, occupational therapists, physical therapists. Home health care, it's often used when the skill level is a little bit higher. It's usually prescribed by a physician, which means Medicare covers it, or part of it, not all of it. Care providers would be the nurses, physical therapy, occupational speech therapists, and home health aides, more at the medical field. It's often used temporarily, transitioning from coming out of the hospital to being at home. So if you've ever had someone come out of the hospital and they say, oh, I have bathing services, that would be home health care. And that only lasts while they're rehabbing, or they have physical therapy. It only lasts while they're rehabbing. Usually a home health agency is the safest and most comprehensive source of assistance because they have all these providers already on staff. So they're not looking for outside staff. So some of the specific home health services, you'll notice it's a bit more than what the home care services are. Rehab, speech, physical therapy, occupational therapy, medical and social services, including counseling. The social services that they provide at the home health level, they'll find programs and needs met for you, so you don't have to do the legwork yourself. Some of these other things are, more medically driven. Case management, of course, is wonderful, especially when you're not familiar with what's going on with the long-term care needs, that they offer that. And home health care pros and cons. So of course, the pros, you're still at home, you're rehabilitating at home. Medicare does cover these services. Yay! I always tell clients, if they're gonna pay for it, please use them first. Let them spend the money that you put into the Medicare, so you use those services. And it's a limited risk of communicable disease. A lot of times you'll find that a senior will go to the hospital with one thing and wind up with something else because they caught it at the hospital. That's because they're in a hospital setting. So that's what it means by a limited risk of communicable diseases. On cons, it's when services are no longer needed, Medicare will no longer pay. Scheduling is done by the agency and not by the client. So that means they tell you what time they're coming, not you tell me when you need me. Anybody know what this man is doing? It looks like he's bowling, right? So if you've heard of the Wii, that's those sports games. So he's bowling in a community living space. They have activities. Okay, so when we're saying independent living, we're talking about in a senior residence or an independent living setting, senior community. So anybody in senior apartments? No? What about like Olaloa or Plaza, any assisted living facilities? Anybody know anybody in one of those? Yeah? Okay. So that would be like the independent community. It's a good choice for older adults that don't need a lot of assistance with daily tasks because they're still independent. And it's a feasibly, it's relatively cost effective to be in a senior living retirement community. And most of these senior apartments are equipped with accessible things such as handrails, alarms, and ramps. Of course, for independent living in a senior residence or a retirement community, it provides a community for elders. Anybody ever been to Olaloa? Anybody heard of it? Okay, so in Mililanimalka, there's a senior community. It's a gated community, and it's only for seniors age 55 and older. My mom lives there, and she really likes it because she feels like she's surrounded by people that, she kind of can get along with. Of course, she's kind of antisocial, so she doesn't go and meet very many of them. But she feels safe there because she knows everybody there is the same age and is going through the same things that she might be going through. She doesn't have any yard work, but she does have a little garden. And they do have social programs and community eating kind of things. The cons would be, you need to understand what you're paying for. So certain places have certain things available. At Olaloa, you don't have to pay for your laundry. It's included with your rent or your mortgage. If you're there, you have a laundry space that's available for you. Whereas some other apartments or places, you have to pay for your laundry. And there are no aides or attendants there to help. So if something happens, you're gonna get 911 with the pull cord. Private care homes. So, anybody know anybody in a private care home? How do they like it?
It was okay if it was a clean one.
Okay.
The con was that sometimes they were treated differently, they weren't fed as well. The caregivers got by lesser things, and then the social workers couldn't really help because they're all friends.
Oh, sure.
So, but there's pros and cons.
Yeah, there are pros and cons to the private care homes. If someone needs 24-hour supervision, not necessarily assistance, but supervision, this would be one of your options. Private care homes, there are different levels of care homes and the different levels of the people that live there. Basically, 2 or more adults living together who aren't related to the owner or administrator is considered a private care home. And the care home generally will provide the meals, personal care services, medication reminders, supervision. The good ones will have activities. They'll have things to do. And they'll help with activities of daily living. Now, here we come to the pros and cons of private care homes. Pros is that it's still a residential setting. They still have their own, either a private room or semi-private room. They still have their own space. It's a home-like atmosphere because you're living in a small group home setting and their meals provided together. So it's kind of like a family type experience. It offers the socialization and it is cost effective, especially when they need 24-hour supervision. If they're on Medicaid, they do accept Medicaid if they have a Medicaid waiver. Not Medicare, Medicaid. Some of the cons is that it's a shared living space. You know, they may have gone from living alone in a 3-bedroom home to living in a room with someone else. Big adjustment. Scheduled meals and personal care. Maybe they like having dinner at 2 o'clock in the afternoon. So maybe they like that, but this care home serves dinner at 5. You know, there's a bit of an adjustment. And the care needs of residents vary. So you may have someone sharing a room with you who's completely bedbound while you're up and able to get around and walk around. It varies. You have to ask yourself, where do I want to live though? So assisted living facilities, we're going up this ladder down. The care home and private care home and assisted living facilities are kind of the same, but a little bit different. Assisted living facilities are generally more, it's more like a resort type setting. So it's a little bit more, you know, there's a lot more people around you. You have your own apartment, you have your own options of whether you want to go to eat or you want to have them deliver the meal. It is a residential housing environment, but it is a little bit different because you come and go as you please. And they have professionals on call on a 24-hour basis. So some of the pros with assisted living facilities is that it still continues to promote independence. It gives you community, like how my mom likes having people around of the same age, same kind of things going on. Same kind of thing with the assisted living facilities. You have a community and you're able to build friendships with people that live in the same building as you. Long-term care insurance may cover some of the costs. Depends on your policy. If anybody have long-term care insurance? Okay, are you familiar with your policy? Yeah? Some of the older policies don't cover this type of living situation. Some of the newer ones do. It just depends on when you've gotten your policy. But some of them do cover some of the costs. And once again, Medicaid, not Medicare, will cover some costs. And there's communal dining and activities. Now the reason why that's important is that food and eating are a social thing. A lot of times seniors who live alone tend to skip meals. And it's not because they're not hungry, it's just there's nobody there to enjoy it with. And so they're like, oh, I don't need to eat lunch, I'll eat dinner. With assisted living facilities and any kind of facility where there's communal dining, it's really important because it encourages a regular 3 meals a day kind of thing. Extra services may be included for additional costs. What does that mean? Well, if you want your laundry done and they provide laundry services, they'll charge you for it. It can add up and be costly. And you may need to move if your needs change, which is really important because if for some reason you're no longer independent in an assisted living facility, then depending on your level of dependency will determine whether or not you can remain in that facility. Meaning a lot of times they say, oh, there's once you cannot walk or once you cannot bear weight, you need to move to the next level up. So that's something to keep in mind if it's an assisted living facility. Skilled nursing facilities. So when we say skilled nursing facilities, that's kind of a broad range, but it's more long-term care, intermediate care facilities, and nursing facilities. So this is up here on our ladder. The skilled nursing facilities are often similar to a hospital setting, more like a rehab setting where you're there for a longer period of time, so you do have your own personal space and everything, but kind of the idea behind it, hospital beds, the nurses, they'll be checking vitals regularly, they'll be coming in and checking in on you regularly. Services may vary depending on the facility. So depending on what level you're at as far as your needs go, that will determine what facility you're placed in. So pros and cons. So the pros is that it's a nursing staff and they're tending to your every health need. It's provided safely in a safe institutional environment. Once again, Medicare may reimburse for some services, and it's also an assurance that the level of care that's needed is actually being provided for. Meaning, if you need physical therapy services, you know that being at a skilled nursing facility, you will get those services. Of course, the cons is that you'd have to leave home. It does get expensive. And it also, once again, we're coming back to independence. There is a loss of independence when you move into one of these facilities. And it can be stressful. I mean, you're in a new environment, new facility, you got people all over the place, you can't even get out of bed without asking for help. It can be quite stressful for the senior that's in the skilled nursing facility. Alzheimer's, special care units. Okay, so personal story here. When I first started as a nurse's aide way long ago, I started in an Alzheimer's dementia unit. I was a fresh CNA and excited about what I wanted to do, helping seniors, and they said, okay, you're going in lockdown. I said, what does that mean? And they said, you're going to be in our dementia and Alzheimer's unit. And I was like, yay? And they said, we won't give you the code until the end of your shift. And I said, what does that mean? Well, you need a code to be able to get out of lockdown. And you're not going to get it until the end of your shift. I thought, oh no, what am I getting myself into? Well, I'll tell you, I have a special place in my heart for Alzheimer's and dementia patients. It's never the same day twice. It's always something different. What's the saying? Hey, we're old friends, let's meet tomorrow so we can be new friends. They don't remember things. And it's a different, you live in their world. It's like fantasy land as far as I'm concerned. If they're talking about their dog who's been dead for 20 years, go with it, just roll with it. And that's what I learned there. It's really a fun place to be. You can just, okay, yeah, that's fun, sure. But with the Alzheimer's and special care units, that can be one of the scariest things, is if you're putting your loved one in there, it's usually because they wander, and you're having a hard time keeping them safe. That's why they have the lockdown, so that they can't get out. It's designed to meet the specific needs. So when you're in one of these units, you'll see that there's a lot of memory games, and there are a lot of things that to help them promote their ability to understand or to continue functioning in the world. So Alzheimer's Staff is professional trained staff. The design of the building are built to promote well-being. The cons are, family might not be comfortable with being locked up. If you look at this picture, you'll see something that she's looking at herself and she's seeing her younger self. And that's really how they think when they're Alzheimer's people. They don't see themselves as old people. This one is the best type of community-centered living because it ages with you. They're life care communities. It's one-stop shopping, meaning if you don't need a lot of care when you get there and you need a lot of care at the end, they will help you no matter what. They grow and change with your needs. Usually you buy into it and then it continues throughout your lifetime. There's not a lot of cons except that it is expensive. And moving is required as needs change. So how do you decide, what do I do, right? In home care, you want to do your homework, make sure the agency is bonded and insured, and I'm sorry I'm going to kind of move along a little bit faster because I'm talking a little slow. You want to make sure you do background checks on the people. With home health agency, you want to make sure, are there checks and balances in place to maintain the level of care that you need? So you always want to find out all the background stuff before you get involved with these things. About driving, is it okay for the caregivers to drive? Do we make the schedule? Do caregivers make the schedule? What kind of things are they going to do? These are all things that you want to prepare for before you bring someone into your home. You want to ask these questions and make sure you have a list of duties that you want them to do so that they know exactly what you want done. And how their billing is done. Who do you pay for their services? So with facilities, you want to check on healthgrades.com for their facility grade. How do they fare amongst the rest of the facilities? Are they an A? Do they receive a grade of an A? Do they receive a grade of a B? You know, it gives you a good idea of what you're looking at as far as the facility overall is. And then you want to make sure, is that facility a good match for the senior? If you have a facility where everybody is active, but your senior is kind of like, doesn't want to do things, it might not be a good match. And vice versa. You want to look at the calendar. You want to look at the menu. You want to look at all the different things that they have available for them. And this is what everybody wants to look at. How do we pay for everything? Win the jackpot, the lottery. Boyd Vacations is giving away a Vegas trip, and maybe you can pull the slots and win money to pay for your care services, your future care services. Private pay is 90% of all payments. So you want to keep that in mind and plan for that. Make sure you plan that private pay services is in your financial plan for the future. And you want to look at all the additional funding sources. Utilize them all. Make sure you have them all in place. If you can get veterans benefits, get the veteran benefits. Reverse mortgage, if you're looking into that, we have Percy and Mikey, they can help you with all of that. So, payment, Medicaid, privately, Medicare, you're looking at mostly privately. This is the one that everybody wants to know. And I'm going to breeze through this, but like I said, if you'd like this PowerPoint sent to you, we have papers that you can sign up, give me an email address, and we'll send this out to you. This is what everybody is interested in, the cost of it all. Nursing homes, most expensive. Look at this amount per year. Anybody got that kind of cash just hanging around? I know I don't. Assisted living, it's still kind of costly, but it's not as much as this. Adult daycare, well, that's a little bit better. Home care, well, that's not too bad. Well, this is home health. Home care, not too bad. This and this can be kind of in the same range, but depending on what you're doing. These numbers are from 2012, I believe, so it did go up a little bit. Every year they increase it. We are one of the more expensive states across the nation. What you want to do is make sure you have thoughtful conversations with your family members. If you are approaching an age where you could possibly require caregiving from someone, have the conversation. Tell them what you want to do. Tell them what you don't want to happen. If you're considering changing your own situation or situation of a loved one who requires care, visit various facilities. Do a lot of legwork. Don't just good with the first place you go to. Check out all the different places so that you have a better range and idea of what would be good for a tutu. You know, what would be good for them. The saying is, plan for the worst, hope for the best, and that's the truth. You never know exactly what's going to happen. You could fall and break a hip and require nursing care services after that. You want to make sure you plan for that though, and hope that it never happens. So make sure to start planning. I will be right outside if you folks have questions. I'd be more than happy to stop and chat with any of you all. I really appreciate you all coming out for this today, and thank you.